The first message arrived in the year 87 of the Concordance cycle, translated simultaneously into 4,726 languages across the greater spiral volume. It was not a greeting. It was a scream. Do not come here. They are coming. We are sorry. The transmission originated from a dead system on the Orion Spur. Sol, 3, third planet, blue-white and unremarkable. The species that sent it called itself the Kaldar Remnant. Once they had been the oldest continuous civilization in the Milky Way, a trillion minds spread across garden worlds and ring moons. Now only 12 of them remained, huddled inside a single battered habitat orbiting a cold red dwarf. Their star had been moved there deliberately, centuries earlier, by engines the size of continents. They had fled something. The second message came 41 standard days later. It contained only coordinates and a single line repeated in every known diplomatic cipher. Whatever you do, keep them asleep. The Galactic Concordance debated the warnings for 6 full cycles. The Archive of Sentient Affairs filed them under probable pre-collapse psychosis. The Military Synod ran simulations and concluded that no known weapon could do what the Kaldar claimed had been done to them. The Trade Consortium pointed out that the Sol system contained an alarming density of heavy elements and several billion untapped sapients who had not yet invented the jump lattice. Profit, as always, spoke louder than fear. So the Concordance sent an embassy. The CSS Ecliptic Mercy folded into Sol's outer Oort cloud on a day humanity would later call August 12, 2041. Captain Liaison Varen of the silver-skinned Levian caste stepped onto the bridge expecting primitives wielding chemical rockets and tribal superstition. Instead, she found a fleet. Thousands of ships, some no larger than city buses, others continent-sized skeletons of scaffolding and engine, were accelerating outward from Earth at fractions of c that should have been impossible. They moved in perfect synchrony, linked by laser-tight formation protocols. Every vessel broadcast the same IDEN tag on open channels. United Nations Sol Defense Force, do not approach. Varen's xenolinguist played back the Kaldar warnings and felt, for the first time in her 3-century life, something like terror. She hailed them anyway. A human female appeared on the main screen. She wore a plain blue jumpsuit with no rank insignia, and her eyes were very tired. This is Rear Admiral Jialin Carter, acting commander of the Sol Exodus Armada. You are in restricted space. Power down all drives and prepare for inspection. Varen tried diplomacy. We come in peace on behalf of the Galactic Concordance of 4,000. Carter cut her off. We know what you are. We've been listening to your public channels for 11 years. We also know what happened to the Kaldar. Turn around. We do not take orders from pre-singularity species. Carter smiled without warmth. Then you should have listened to the warning. She terminated the channel. 3 minutes later, the Ecliptic Mercy lost every external sensor. Not destroyed, simply ceased to exist, converted into unstructured photons that drifted away like dandelion seeds. The human fleet had not fired a shot. They had rewritten the quantum state of the hardware from a distance of 2 light minutes using something the Concordance had never catalogued. Varen ordered an emergency fold. The jump lattice refused to engage. A new signal overrode her ship's core. Warning shot complete. Next one deletes the crew. Leave. They left. The Concordance declared Sol 3 a quarantine black zone and forbade all travel within 100 light years. They posted picket drones. They waited for the humans to die of their own primitivism, the way every noisy pre-fold species eventually did. The humans did not die. They woke up. Part 1. The Long Sleep. No one on Earth ever saw the Kaldar messages. The 12 survivors had sent them along a tight beam maser aimed at the galactic core, assuming any civilization advanced enough to detect it would be advanced enough to listen. They were wrong about the second part. What humanity did receive, beginning in 2032, was a different kind of signal, low frequency, almost subliminal, repeating every 0.87 seconds from a source that moved against the stellar background like something alive. The pattern was not language. It was a lullaby. Astronomers called it the cradle pulse. Children born after 2034 fell asleep to it on baby monitors. Soldiers in war zones reported sudden, irresistible calm. Violent crime dropped 40% worldwide with no explanation. The pulse wrapped itself around the limbic system of an entire species and sang, over and over, "Sleep. You're safe. Sleep." Governments classified it. Corporations tried to patent it. Religions called it the voice of God. None of them understood what they were hearing. The Kaldar did. They had built the pulse 3,000 years earlier. It was never meant to be a weapon. It was a cradle, a kindness. When a civilization grew too loud, too bright, too violent, when it began to draw the attention of the things that live between galaxies, the Kaldar would find it, sing to it, and gently, painlessly put it back to sleep. Entire species were archived that way, minds preserved in dream loops, bodies guided by caretakers until the danger passed. Sometimes 10,000 years. Sometimes forever. They had done it to humanity's ancestors once already, during the Toba winter. The plan was to do it again. But something went wrong. Humanity had spent the last century poisoning its own biosphere, splitting atoms, and screaming into the void with radio waves. It was supposed to be exhausted, pliable, grateful for the quiet. Instead, a generation of children who had never known a night without the pulse grew up immune. They called themselves the Wakeful. By 2040, the Wakeful outnumbered the drowsy adults 3-1. They reverse-engineered the pulse in university dorms. They built detectors the size of wristwatches. They discovered that the cradle was not a natural phenomenon. It was a machine the size of a gas giant, hidden in the dark between Pluto and the heliopause, singing its single note across the solar system. They named it the Lullaby Array. And they decided to kill it. Part 2. Exodus Day. On March 14, 2041, every screen on Earth displayed the same message in whatever language the viewer spoke. This is not a drill. The stars are not safe. We are leaving. Come with us or stay and sleep. No government authorized it. No corporation funded it. The Wakeful simply began building ships. They stripped cities for materials. They printed fusion torches in football stadiums. They uploaded blueprints to the infant Internet of Things that still functioned after the collapse of nations. 10 million people worked in shifts that never ended. Children who had never seen rain welded hull plates under open sky while their grandparents, still half-drowsy, begged them to stop. The old powers tried to regain control. Tanks rolled into shipyards. Soldiers fired on teenagers carrying superconducting cable. The Wakeful did not fight back. They simply walked around the barricades, singing the counter-melody they had derived from the pulse itself. Every soldier who heard it laid down his weapon and joined them. By August, 2.1 billion humans had boarded vessels ranging from converted cargo haulers to skeletal ark colonies 100 kilometers long. They did not wait for the rest. Those who chose to stay behind curled up wherever they were and dreamed beautiful, endless dreams. At 9:17 Universal Time, coordinated on August 12, 2041, the first wave lit its torches. The sky turned white with fusion fire. The magnetosphere howled. From orbit it looked like the sun had learned how to bleed upward. The Lullaby Array woke fully for the first time in 70 millennia and understood its mistake. It tried to increase the pulse amplitude. The Wakeful were ready. They had built a counter-chorus, 12 million human voices singing in perfect, terrible harmony across every frequency. The array shattered into 1,000 silent pieces that fell into the sun over the next 11 years. Then the humans aimed themselves at the galactic plane and accelerated. Part 3. The Warning Fleet. The Kaldar watched in horror. They had sent the warnings assuming the concordance would contain the humans the way it contained every other threat: bureaucracy, trade sanctions, orbital blockades. They had not expected the humans to arrive in less than 9 years. Human ships did not use the jump lattice. They did not need to. They had solved the Alcubierre metric the hard way, by brute force iteration across a planet-sized quantum mesh. Their drives created bubbles of negative mass that simply erased the distance between 2 points. Transit time was proportional to the pilot's tolerance for 40 g acceleration in rotating crew habs. They called it blink drive. The first human ship to reach Kaldar space blinked into existence 1,000 kilometers from the remnant habitat and immediately began broadcasting on the old emergency band. "This is the use we tried to tell you," said a voice that sounded 20 years old. "We're looking for the people who sent the warning. We brought coffee." The 12 remaining Kaldars stared at the screen. The human captain was drinking from a bulb labeled World's Okayest Helmsman. Behind her, crew members waved. One of the Kaldar, an ancient archivist named Senth, found the strength to reply. "You came to thank us?" "Pretty much," the human said. "Also, we have some questions. Like what exactly we just woke up." Senth told them. She told them about the Devourers that live in the voids between galaxies, entities that do not think the way minds think, that are drawn to the heat light of thought itself the way moths are drawn to flame. She told them how the Kaldar had shepherded 1,000 civilizations into gentle sleep to keep the Devourers hungry and far away. She told them the Devourers were already turning toward the Milky Way, following the afterglow of 2 billion human minds burning across the stars at 40 gravities. The human captain listened without interrupting. When Senth finished, the young woman took another sip of coffee. "So, you're saying we're the loudest toddler in the universe, and we just smashed the nightlight." "In essence." "Cool," the captain said. "We brought bigger bulbs." Part 4. The war that hadn't happened yet. Over the next decade, humanity did 3 things simultaneously. First, they built the warning fleet, 10,000 automated dreadnoughts the size of small moons, each carrying a single message in every known language, transmitted at the wattage of a small star. "We are awake. We are coming. Run." They fired the fleet along every major trade route, every spiral arm, every globular cluster. Most civilizations laughed. Some shot at the dreadnoughts. None of them managed to scratch the paint. Second, they built the wall, a sphere of artificial black holes and negative energy shells 2,000 light-years in diameter, centered on Sol. Anything that tried to enter without the correct quantum key was gently decelerated to 0 and redirected back the way it came. Humanity was not hiding. They were quarantining the rest of the galaxy from what they had become. Third, they waited. They waited on generation ships parked in the dark between stars. They waited in hollowed-out asteroids where children grew up speaking Kaldar as a first language because their parents thought it was only polite. They waited while the Devourers crossed the gulf, slow as continents, ancient as entropy. And when the first Devourer arrived, a creature whose merest outrider was a living gravity wave that crushed stars into foamy quanta, humanity was ready. They did not fight with weapons. They fought with music. Across a front 300 light-years wide, every human ship began to sing. Not the lullaby, not the counter-chorus. They sang the sound of a mother rocking a child who will never sleep again, of a father teaching his daughter to swear in languages that died before she was born, of 2 lovers laughing because the universe is ending, and they still have 12 minutes left. They sang what it means to be awake and unafraid. The Devourer stopped. It had fed on civilizations that begged, that bargained, that fled screaming. It had never tasted a species that looked it in the eye and offered it coffee. The Devourer considered. Then it turned around and left. No one knows why. Some say it was mercy. Some say it was fear. Some say the Devourers are simply very old and had never met a child that refused to go to bed. The Kaldar asked humanity what should be done with the cradle technology, whether the pulse should be destroyed forever. The humans thought about it for 3 days. Then they rebuilt the lullaby array, bigger, gentler, wrapped in layers of consent protocols and off-switches the size of planets. They pointed it at themselves first. Because some nights, even the wakeful get tired. And sometimes the galaxy needs warning that humanity is coming. But sometimes, just sometimes, it needs reminding that we also know how to be kind. The last transmission from the new array is quiet, almost shy. It travels outward at the speed of light, looking for anyone who might still be listening. It says, in 4,727 languages, "We're still here. We're still loud. But if you need to sleep for a while, we'll keep watch."